We are a full service human capital management outsourcing service provider, which is private and is one of the largest in the country as far as the private companies are concerned. And we can basically deliver whatever a client wants because the menu of our services is quite vast. The entire industry has emerged and evolved into what we call human capital management. It's no longer payroll outsourcing, where payroll is augmented with a number of other utilities and services. One of the most common one is timekeeping, for people to clock in and out so you can track from people's time. HRIS, Human Resource Information Systems, where we keep up with all the HR functionality that's associated with managing your workforce. The list goes on and on and on and on. There's a whole slew of additional services that augments the core competency of companies like us. And it evolves into a whole portfolio of services that we call human capital management.
Welcome to Business Ninjas, brought to you by WriteForMe, where you'll hear from business leaders who are out there growing their business and slaying it every day. Learn from the masters. Let's get started.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of Business Ninjas. I'm here today with Farsheed Ferdowsi, founder and executive chairman at Inova Payroll and author of the book Payroll Pioneer. Farsheed, how are you today?
Doing great. Thank you so much for having me.
My pleasure. My pleasure. I appreciate you spending some time with us on Business Ninjas. Please tell us a bit about yourself and about Inova Payroll.
I am a serial entrepreneur. I've been building and growing and developing companies for the past 45 years, ever since I left school. My first company I started when I was 24 years old in 1979. Now I'm telling you how old I am.
Yeah.
And altogether, I think I've put together and launched about 12 different companies, and two of them were total losses, and 7 of them were above average, did well, and 3 of them did quite well. And the last one is the one that I'm currently engaged in, and that's Inova Payroll. I started it in 2011, and today in the space of payroll and HR outsourcing, if you look at all the privately held companies in that space, we probably rank amongst the top 5. So it has really scaled nationally, and I'm very proud of what we've achieved together, giving credit to a very capable management team that really are responsible for where we are.
Excellent. I have to ask, what was that very first business you launched at the age of 24?
The very first business I started in age 24 was in those years, we had no internet, we had no connectivity the way we do today. And there were no PCs either. Nobody had PCs. We had mini computers, and we connected to those mini computers using regular terminals. And my education was in structural engineering and structural mechanics, mathematics, and computer science. So in 1979, we were in the middle of a huge recession. So I could not engage in anything within the world of engineering and construction. Nobody was building anything. So I came out of school at age 24, left the PhD program unfinished, and I started a software company, writing accounting software. And nowhere in my education, there was any introduction to accounting. So my brother's accountant, my brother's CFO, kind of taught me the basics of accounting. And I wrote a general ledger, and later on wrote accounts payable and wrote accounts receivable. And the last thing I did was where I developed a payroll system. And that's what we started with. And people would use our services using dial-up modems.
I remember those sounds.
Now I know how old you are.
Yeah, this is
Dial-up modems to use our software, and that's what we did. And I was a one-man show. And I think for the first 2 years, I was doing it all: developing software, installing, training, answering customer service questions. And then I developed a team, and the name of the company was Access Data. And for the decade of the 80s, that's what I did. And I scaled it to a pretty good size, about $2 million in revenues in those years. And I sold it. And then in the decade of the 90s, I started Paymax, which was a payroll and HR outsourcing company, and that went viral. And we did a lot of pioneering work. We were Paymax was the first company to put a fully functioning payroll service online. So we invented the the online payroll service, industry, and today everybody has an online presence. And then I grew that to also one of the top 5 players in the industry, and I sold it in 2005. I retired for a few years. Then in 2011, I went at it again, and I started. And
Retirement is a murky term for people who are as energized as you, eh?
No, interestingly, when I retired, I was engaged in a lot of nonprofits and did some other businesses. And a local magazine, online magazine, came in to just see what I was doing. And just told the reporter and the publisher what activities I was involved with, and including writing a novel. And he did an article. It's online. You can look it up. It says Ferdowsi fails at retirement.
Ah, yes. Well, hey, we have this perception of what we're going to do at that age, whatever that age ends up being. And most people aren't in the shape to do what they always envisioned at that point.
Well,
And
that's very, very true. And I mean, people view retirement differently. People view retirement, having a nice house on a golf course and playing 2 rounds of golf every day. And great. If that's what makes them happy, that's what they should do. But I cannot picture myself, not being involved in some aspect of the business world and the entrepreneurship and building and creating things. That's where I get my joy.
excellent, excellent. Well, obviously, in terms of growing and scaling from that 24-year-old to where you are today, you figured a couple things out. You even carved a niche in the industry out in terms of online payroll systems. Tell me about Inova. Are there particular verticals or size companies that you work with best? Who are you serving?
Well, Inova is a full scale uh, service provider. At the core of what we deliver is payroll outsourcing. So if you have 30 employees and you want to pay them weekly or semi monthly or bi-weekly or whatever, you come to us and we do that for you. And then we also make all the direct deposits to the employees, make sure everybody's compliant with the taxes. Then we collect the taxes and make sure the taxing authorities are paid on time. So we do all of that administrative work for you. And when you really think about it, if you look at what a payroll service provider like us costs versus the payroll that you pay, it's peanuts, and it takes all of that administrative work out of your hair, and also eliminates your exposure to being penalized by the taxing authorities if your taxes are done wrong or late or whatever. So it's a very, very necessary and useful tool for businesses of any size. And that's at the core of what we do. We provide payroll services on an outsourced basis to all businesses, ranging from a few employees to a few hundred to a few thousand. We probably can do payroll for companies up to 10,000 employees.
And you actually take on the liability for things like misfiled taxes and things like that. That is your burden. There's no asterisk at the bottom. Yeah.
Absolutely. And it's clearly stated in our contract that in the event that there is any interest or penalties assessed to any of our clients, and we either try to abate it or it would become our liability, provided it is our error.
Of course.
Sometimes the clients may give us the wrong number, the wrong rate, and we deduct and pay based on that wrong rate. And then if the client is penalized and we show that the rate was given to us wrong, then that becomes the client's liability. But if it is ours, we indemnify the client from all taxes and interest and penalties.
Excellent. Excellent. Look, you're describing a nearly 50-year journey to knowing the ins and outs of how to deliver this service properly.
Mhm.
Other than that history, what differentiates Inova Payroll from all your competitors?
Excellent question, because as I mentioned earlier, at the core of what we do is payroll outsourcing. but that has become more or less commodity. There are numerous independent payroll providers, maybe over 1,000 independent payroll providers in the country. Then there are some of the larger national firms that are public, like, the giants of the industry are ADP and Paychexes of the world. So we are in the same ecosystem. So payroll, there are many, many options for payroll. But the entire industry has emerged and evolved into what we call human capital management. It's no longer payroll outsourcing. It's human capital management, where payroll is augmented with a number of other utilities and services. One of the most common one is timekeeping, for people to clock in and out so you can track from people's time. Then it is human resource, HRIS, human resource information systems, where we keep up with all the HR functionality that's associated with managing your workforce. Then it becomes the issue of healthcare and healthcare provider. We provide health insurance to our clients who want to use that service from us. Then it moves on to, for instance, onboarding your employees, because nowadays you don't sit down and key punch all the demographics of a new hire. An employee using their phone can do all of that themselves. That's called onboarding. We do all of that. So the list goes on and on and on and on, from providing 401k services or providing, pay cards for your unbanked employees. There's a whole slew of additional services that augments the core competency of companies like us. And it evolves into a whole portfolio of services that we call human capital management. So we are a full service human capital management outsourcing service provider, which is private and is one of the largest in the country as far as the private companies are concerned. And we can basically deliver whatever a client wants because the menu of our services is quite vast.
Absolutely.
Oh, one other thing I forgot to mention. Another thing that we do, which is very, very popular, is we outsource the HR function of companies. So if you have, a 50, 100, 200 employees and you don't want to build an in-house HR department, we take that over from you and we deliver that service. And it's enormously economical versus you hiring, a few HR professionals and putting them on staff. For a fraction of that cost, we deliver all of that services to our clients on an outsourced basis.
Now, your delivery of a number of the things you've just described had to change dramatically post-COVID. Tell me about the challenges and opportunities of sustaining and growing Inova Payroll through COVID.
I think, that was really, really quite an experience. In a way, it reminded me of 9/11. After 9/11, when that disaster occurred, it was quite disruptive in the workforce of the country. A lot of businesses downsized, the economy shrunk. So for a while, our growth kind of leveled off and even shrunk. And then, of course, it all came back. COVID more or less had the same effect. I think it was in March or April when COVID hit. So all of a sudden, we lost something like 20% of the employees that we served. Okay? We were serving something like 150,000 employees at the time. And within a matter of 30 days, that shrunk by 20%. So since our fee structure and our revenues are tied to how many employees we serve, how many customer employees we serve, all of a sudden we took a huge hit. So it was quite challenging. And one of the things that many of our competitors did, they also laid off their employees. They shrunk the size of their workforce. We didn't do that because by doing that, our service level would go down. We didn't want to do that. So what we did, we basically tightened our belts, kind of stopped all the discretionary expenses. We asked everybody to agree to a 10% salary reduction for a temporary basis, including from myself all the way down to the rest of the staff. And that way we weathered the storm. And within the subsequent 7 or 8 months, the employments came back. So we did not lose very many clients, maybe a handful. We did not lose any employees, and everything came back to normal. The biggest difference that COVID created, not only for us, but the entire economy, was this whole concept of work from home.
Mhm.
I remember walking up and down the hallway and seeing all of our employees and, saying hello to them. Now, half of them are working from home, if not more. I remember at the beginning of COVID, we had employees in 12 or 13 states. Today, we have employees in 30 or 35 states.
Ah,
So over the past 5 years, increasingly, we hire employees that work from home in all over the country. So when an employee resides in one of the cities where we have a physical office, we prefer for them to come to the office, even though we don't require it, but we prefer it. But if they are not, we just recruit from whoever we need, anywhere they are. And, with the modern technology, Zoom and everything else, we can make them integrated into our workforce.
I imagine HR becomes easier on some fronts and more convoluted in other fronts when people are not in the same room most of the time, right?
That's true. I'm old school. I rather have everybody under the same roof. But hey, things change. New technologies bring new requirements to the workforce. Some for the better, some for the worse. But this is our reality today, and so maybe half or even more than our workforce, works from home. But as far as the client is concerned, they don't see the difference. They don't see any difference because as customer service calls come in, they all go to a database. They are all ticketed. All the calls are logged. Then we monitor how quickly those calls are responded to. Usually, most customer service calls are responded to and resolved while the customer service rep is on the phone. And if not, it's ticketed, and within a matter of hours, the problem is resolved and the ticket is closed. And that kind of a system enables us to evaluate the kind of calls we get from clients. Why are they calling? Where are their difficulties? So we then enhance our product delivery to mitigate those calls and minimize them, because we want the clients to be self-reliant and self-sufficient to be able to handle all this stuff. Our platform is leading edge. Basically, whatever you want this platform to do, it does for you. It doesn't turn on the coffee machine, but when it comes to payroll and HR, it pretty much does everything that you need to know. So usually most of the calls are training calls. How do I do this? I forgot. And so we deliver our services through a large customer service force of almost 100 people throughout the country to our clients. We serve over 5,000 clients by the way.
Excellent. Could 1979 Farsheed have imagined the computing power that we all now have in our pocket?
Absolutely not. I remember I was a research assistant to a PhD student at Vanderbilt, a wonderful gentleman. He was German scientist, and he had a grant. He was working on a research project, and I was a young computer programmer at the time. He and I worked together. He liked what I was doing, so he hired me when I was a senior at Vanderbilt back in 1977, before I even left school. He hired me to write a simulation program for him, and I did. I wrote a simulation program for him, written in COBOL to simulate the river, simulate the characteristics of a river flow. And the program was done, it was finished, and we would submit it to our computer at Vanderbilt. And it would sit there for about 20 hours before the results would come out. And this was a simulation program. We needed to run it multiple times so we could plot the outcome. So we couldn't do it. And the grant was from Oak Ridge National Laboratories, and they had super computers, as they called it. And he would go back and forth to Oak Ridge, and he got permission and security clearance for me to accompany him to Oak Ridge, and we would go there and run the computer program using their controlled data supercomputers. So what used to run at Vanderbilt's machine for 20 hours would run at Oak Ridge in about 15 minutes. So and I was just stunned. Now, let me tell you something. This thing in my hand would run that program in 1 minute.
Of course.
So, I mean, the world has completely changed. We can't even imagine what NVIDIA does. That program at NVIDIA would be instant.
All right, let's talk a little bit about put on your author cap. Let's talk about your book, Payroll Pioneer.
Yes, what gave me the idea of doing it was in June of 2023, I think. Yes. Um, I transitioned my responsibilities as the president and CEO of Inova to Joe Schweppe, who was a very, very capable and extremely effective leader within the industry that had joined our company after a business combination. And over a period of 1 year, I transitioned my responsibilities to him, and he's now leading the company to higher and higher grounds. And he and I work together very closely. Uh, when that when that happened was, I think, was July 1 or June 30th of 2023. Uh, we the HR department and the marketing department asked me to kind of give a quick story of Inova to the team on a all hands on Zoom call, and officially hand off my responsibilities to Joe. And I put together a 25-minute presentation, gave the whole story. And as I was putting this together, so many memories came back, so many events came back. And I said, there's no way that I can tell the full story in 25 minutes. So I did a PowerPoint. And at the end of the PowerPoint, I said, doing this presentation gave me the idea to write a book. And I did. Now that I was no longer the president and CEO and I work half time, I had some extra time on my hand. I started writing that book. It took me a year to write it and about 6 months to produce it. And now it's out. To my knowledge, nobody else has ever done a entrepreneur story book in the payroll space. And it's not just about payroll. It's about an entrepreneurial journey of, a young graduate student leaving school and starting his first business all the way till now. And I walked through all of that: capital formation, mergers, acquisitions, culture, developing products, and marketing, guerrilla marketing versus strategic marketing. We've done all of those. So I told all the stories and all the anecdotes, and also a lot of lessons. If you want to buy a company, how do you do it? If you want to sell your company, how you do it? If you want to raise capital, how you do it? And all of that are in the book. And recently at the IPPA conference, IPPA is Independent Payroll Providers Association, which is a industry association in Las Vegas. They asked me to give the opening remarks, which I did, and I introduced the book. There was a book signing, so it was great. And the book is available on Amazon, and I think not only is useful for anybody in the payroll HR industry, but it's a great book for all entrepreneurs who are just starting out. And it's learning the story of other entrepreneurs is always inspiring for the new entrepreneurs.
Excellent, excellent. Hey, it's important to tell your story, and for your company as well. I mean, how is Inova telling its story? What role has content played in the growth of Inova Payroll?
In order for a company to grow, you need to have a brand. And my philosophy of brand is you want to be kind of living rent-free in a potential customer's brain, you see? And payroll service is something that you do not change haphazardly. It's not like, I'm gonna shop at this grocery store versus the other grocery store. It's not. Moving from one payroll service provider to another takes time. There's some effort involved. It's, could at times be painful. So you don't do it willy-nilly. You only do it when you're not satisfied with your services. And if you're not satisfied with your services, somehow you go to the tenants in your brain and you say, I'm going to call this and this and this and this to come and give me a proposal. So that's my philosophy about branding. You want to be able to be present in your potential customer's mind. So when a trouble arises, he or she will call you. And that would open the door. A sales consultant comes in and, sits down with you, finds out how we can be of assistance, and you have an opportunity to bring another client to your portfolio. Now, having said that, how do you do it? In the old days, it was, newspaper advertising and magazine advertising and this, that, the other. But in today's world, it's really content. Content is everything. And when a sales consultant wants to nurture a potential prospect, what do? They provide a useful article. They provide a useful piece of information, and of course you yourself put on videos and audios and blogs and articles online. So the more people see your name and associate your name with providing solutions, providing knowledge, providing training, the more the quotient of you being an authority goes up subconsciously in the back of a potential customer's mind. And when the time comes, when that payroll is late, when that tax notice shows up, you pick up the phone and you reach out to Inova.
Hey, that approach is agnostic. It works in any industry.
That's true.
Question. You said maybe 19 businesses you had launched and grown.
12.
12? Were they all in the payroll space and software space?
No. The ones that succeeded were in the payroll business.
Okay.
Either payroll business or near payroll business. But no, all of the businesses I've been involved with, except for one or two, were in the spaces that I called technology centric,
Sure.
outsourced services. Because I did some work in revenue cycle management for the healthcare industry. I did that. And some other areas. I mean, in the olden days, we provided networking services, tying PCs together. So it was a variety of things, all of them technology centric, and all of them in the outsourcing world. The ones that didn't make it were not in those spaces.
Okay, we won't go down that path.
I don't mind telling you, in one of them, I imported stuff. I became an importer, and that was a total failure.
We tend to learn the most from screwing up, right? Yeah.
That's true. You learn as much from your failures as you do your successes. That's true.
If you don't, they tend to accumulate. Yes.
Very true. Do not repeat the mistakes.
Yeah. Look ahead about a year from now. What are some things you'd like to be celebrating personally and professionally?
I like to see Inova continue to grow, maybe double its size again. We've grown 50% in 3 years.
Wow.
Organically. And I give credit to our new CEO Joe Schweppe and his leadership to have put us there. Growing 50% in 3 years organically for a company of our size is quite a feat. I like to grow another 50% in the next 3 years. That would be great. So just watching the company grow and become better known is always a great thing to do. Maybe I write another book if I can organize my thoughts. And I have 2 grandchildren, and I spend a lot of time with them, and I would love to see them, every weekend, and and also like to travel to some places in the world that I haven't traveled. In fact, in May I'll be going to Chile and Argentina. I've never been there before, so we're taking a trip there. Anyway, it's just I'll be 70, and I still will remain active in the business world. I have a number of other engagements that I would like to do, and enjoy my grandchildren and continue to celebrate the success of Inova, which I started, and life goes on.
Excellent. Please tell us, what is your URL? Where can people find Inova Payroll, and what social media outlets are you using as well?
Well, I think we are all the social media. I mean, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, we are in all the social media. Every social media you go to, you will find us. And if you Google Inova, the Inova Payroll will come up. Our website is inovapayroll.com. And Inova is spelled with one N, Inova. And people ask me, how'd you come up with the name? And I basically took the word innovation and I played on the letters and I came up with Inova. In fact, our tagline is Inova, innovation pays. So, if you like to know more about us, just go to inovapayroll.com and you will see everything you need to know to make the right choice and come home to Inova.
Excellent. Farsheed Ferdowsi, thank you for spending some time with us on Business Ninjas today. Continued health and success, and all the best to you and yours, and success with Payroll Pioneer as well.
Thank you, Andrew. I enjoyed the conversation and I wish you all the best.
Thank you so much. Be well.